Bienvenidos de nuevo. Welcome back to Spanish EdTech's Tech Tips of the Day. Today we are going to get an introduction to Google Forms and how we can use Google Forms to formatively assess our foreign language learners. This is the first video in a three-part series. This video will explain the assessment setup process and a basic introduction to Google Forms. Other videos will cover the automatic grader setup, the data analysis process, how to measure student growth with the assessments, and then how to change your instruction based on the assessment data. To begin, you will need a Google account. If you don't have one, now is the time to pause the video and rejoin us once you've created an account and logged in. You need to start by visiting google.com, or you can visit any Google app, and ensure that you are logged in the upper right-hand corner. You will see your login information or your profile icon. If not, you will see a blue login bar which you can log in with. After that, you can get started by visiting the Drive. So go to the URL address bar and type drive.google.com and hit enter. Another way to visit that, instead of going to the URL address bar, you can click the Google Apps icon, which is the 9 squares in the upper right-hand corner, and go down and click the Drive, and that will also take it to you if you're logged in at any Google app site. Fantastic. We're going to get started by creating our Google form. So in the upper left-hand corner, you need to click New, More, and then Google Forms. Welcome to the Google form that we will use to assess our students. You can start by naming the file in the upper left-hand corner. This name will not be visible to students. Let's just name it 3.1 Vocabulary Formative Assessment. As you can see, this name does automatically update the name of the assessment for students. If you decide that you want to change the assessment name, which is visible to students, you can click that, and we're going to change it to something more basic for student understanding. Let's go with breakfast, lunch, and dinner vocabulary assessment. Now you have an option to add a form description. This can be used to describe the assessment, give directions, or add the student learning target being assessed. I'll add a quick student learning target and then show you what it looks like. So let's add student learning target. I can discuss what I and others eat and drink for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. At any time, you can click the eye in the upper right-hand corner and it will take you to a live preview of what the assessment will look like. As you can see, we have our title, Breakfast, Lunch, and Dinner Vocabulary Assessment, and then our student learning target. I can discuss what I and others eat/drink for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now we can close out of that window and get started with our first question. Since this is a vocabulary assessment, I like to write the English word as the question and then have students write the Spanish translation as their answer. However, you do have the option to make it more complex, which I'll review in the next examples. So for our first question, I'll start off with a basic one. And for our vocabulary word, I will choose the eggs. And then on the right-hand side, we have to choose the question type. I don't want it to be multiple choice. We're going to start basic with short answer, which will require students to simply write the Spanish translation. After you add the question, you have more options down below. You can duplicate the question for further use. You can delete the question by clicking on the trash can, or by clicking on the toggle button, you can make it a required question. For vocabulary questions, I don't require students to answer every question in case they don't know the vocabulary word. Then, by clicking the 3 dots, you can see some more options. The response validation option is used if you want something very specific in your answer. For example, if you are asking a question that asks students, "What is your email address?" you would add a response validation that the user's answer include text that contains the @ symbol. You can see when people are answering the question, if they type something that does not include the @ symbol, it will give them a warning. However, this is rarely needed for Spanish assessments, so we can delete the data validation, and let's click our 3 dots again and see the description. Adding a description allows you to give special directions a hint, or a reminder. I like to add this at times and include things like include punctuation, or in this instance, include an article. We'll take a look at how this appears for students. They now have the question, the eggs, include an article as a reminder, and then this is where they would type their answer, los huevos. Notice we don't need an @ sign, there is no data validation. I really do like to include reminders like include an article or include punctuation because it really removes all the opportunities students have to make excuses. All right, let's leave that window and go back. Now let's start with our second question. On the right menu, you'll see multiple options, and we can start by clicking the plus symbol at the top. It will add another question to our assessment. Let's get a little bit more creative with this one and make it a fill-in-the-blank question. So we'll create a question that says, me gusta comer el blank, and we'll create a blank using underscores, de jamón y queso. And in the top right corner, we can change our question type. It automatically went to multiple choice, but we know we still want this to be a short answer where students are required to fill in the blank with their text. Now we can take a sneak peek how this looks on the student end. Me gusta comer el blank de jamón y queso. And clearly, as we know, we would fill it in with jamón. We can close the window and go back. Let's move forward to our third question. For our third question, we're going to get a little bit more creative and leave our actual question blank. If you put your mouse between the question and the question type, you'll notice this link for a picture appears. Instead of having a question, we're simply going to provide students with a picture, and they have to identify, in Spanish, what the picture is. Using the top menu bar, you can choose where your image is located. You can add an image by the URL address. You can add an image if you have it saved to your Google Drive, or if you are like me, you have your image stored locally and you need to upload it. So you can begin by clicking Upload in the upper left-hand corner, and then choose an image to upload. Locally on my desktop, I have a picture of an apple saved. I will click Apple, Open, and it will automatically begin the uploading process. Look at that, we have our picture of an apple. You can now change the image settings and layout by clicking the 3 dots above the image. And you can left align, center align, right align. You can change the image or you can remove it. If you want to add a caption, you can do that as well. I'll choose center align just so it's nice and neat, and then we will move forward. Now, let's change the question type. From the drop-down menu in the upper right-hand corner, we can change the question type, if it isn't already selected, to multiple choice. Then we can add 4 options below. Option 1, una bebida. Down below, to add another option, we can click Add Other Option. Add Option again. Option 2, una manzana, our correct answer in this instance. Awesome. Let's add another option. Option 3, let's add una cena. And let's add a 4th option, un sandwich. And students will have to choose between that. Let's take a look how this appears on the student's end again with our preview button. We have our first 2 questions, and now we have our third questions. We have the picture of the apple, and then we have our 4 options. Notice how we left it set up. Students have the option to click Other and add a possibility, such as if they thought this was una naranja. If you want to remove the ability for students to add an other option, you can go back to the assessment, and you see where it says Other. You simply remove that by clicking the X on the right-hand side. Now, when you preview the question, it will only provide the image and the 4 options that you've provided. If you prefer, you can also add a caption to the apple, an apple, or you can actually name the question type an apple. Let's take a look how both of those look. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit redundant. An apple, an apple, an apple. And then we'd have to choose our option again below. Just because it looks a little redundant, we'll get rid of the an apple as our question. Now, I want to point out to you, as we were adding our answers, we also had the ability to add a picture as an answer. You do that, again, by clicking between, next to where you put the answer in, and the X on the right-hand side. You can click that image button. So let's get really creative for our next question and simply flip it. Instead of providing an image as our question and have text as our answer, let's provide text as our question, and then we will provide 3 images as our answer. Let's go forward for the next question. Click Add Question. So for this one, we're going to make our question say una manzana. And then let's create a multiple choice in the upper right-hand corner. Change the question type to multiple choice. And we'll only include 3 options here. And we will upload an image locally. Let's start with the watermelon image I have. Okay, we will now add an option 2. We will upload our correct image. We will upload the apple. And we will add a third option. Our third option for an image, we will add the orange. Uploading, and we are set. Now, let's return to our student view to see how this will look in the student size. We have our first couple questions. We have that apple question we just created. And now we have una manzana. Option 1, students can choose that image. Option 2, the apple, or option 3, the orange. Notice we left that other option in there again. We can go back, leave the page, and remove that other option again by clicking the X. If you wanted to give each image a title, such as a watermelon, an apple, and an orange, you also have the ability to do that, and you can see how that looks on the student end right here. Una manzana, and students have to fill in, is it a watermelon, an apple, or an orange? Now, before we move forward, let's quickly explore some of the other question types you have and when you would use these. So in the upper right-hand corner, we can change the question type. We've already explored what a short answer question will look like. A paragraph question will allow students to type in longer answers. As we can see in this question, they can simply type, and continue typing their answer. This is really not what we will be using the assessments for. The assessments are meant to be quick, easy to grade, and easy to look at the data. We won't be grading essay questions using Google Forms. The second option, multiple choice, which we've already viewed, checkboxes. For example, if we were practicing, let's say, colors, we could change our question to ¿Cuáles cosas son rojas? Which things are red? And then we could provide different things. For example, we could start with our favorite, una manzana. We can add una naranja, el agua, and then let's go with una pluma, which could be a red pen. Now, from the students' options, we can see how this is going to look. ¿Cuáles cosas son rojas? And they choose the multiple items that apply. In this instance, we'd only click una manzana and una pluma, which could both be red. Other question types, we have a drop-down menu. How this will look from the student end is it's very similar to multiple choice, ¿Cuáles cosas son rojas? And you simply go to the drop-down menu to choose the best answer. Additionally, we have a linear scale if you want to have students rate their feelings or how they liked an activity on 1 to 10, they would use this option. A multiple choice grid, it's a more complex use, but if you want to create matching questions, this is how you would do it. or if you want students to input the date or time that they're doing the assessments. This is a little bit redundant, the date and the time, because the computer already collects this information when students submit, so it really isn't necessary to add the date or the time as the question. Now, let's take a quick tour of what else we can add to our forms. Below the question plus, we see the uppercase and lowercase t. We can click the t's to add another title, description, or directions. Let's add directions to our assessment. We will change the title to be Fill in the Blanks. And then the directions we will add beneath the description. Answer the questions to the best of your ability. I always add special characters too, just so students don't have any excuses for wrong answers. I add an upside down question mark, upside down exclamation point, A, E, I, O, U, N-Y, and then U with an umlaut, just in case. Now, let's see how that looks. Down at the bottom, just where we added it, you can see the section title, and then we can see the directions down below. Clearly, there's something wrong with this. These directions need to be at the beginning, not at the end. So we can do that by going back to our assessment, and you can click the 6 dots above that section and drag it to wherever we'd like it. So let's drag it all the way up to the beginning before all our other questions. And there we have it. It's saving up at the top, and now we can take a look how that looks on our end. Good, we have our directions, and then we have the questions that follow. If at any time you want to rearrange anything, not just titles, if you want to move questions around, you can do the same thing by clicking the dots and then moving them wherever you'd like those questions to fall. So we already know how to add questions and now titles and directions. Beneath that, you can click this link to add an image or this link to add a video. The videos are really nice because you can embed them from YouTube or any video URL. You don't have to upload the videos. And the images are similar to what we experienced earlier. You can upload a local file from the Google Drive, URL, take a snapshot. Very simple and easy to use. The final option at the bottom is to add a new section. As you can see, it creates a new section where you'll have to add a new title and description. You can go ahead and add more questions after this, or you can add just a simple final reminder to students, such as final reminder. Before you submit, be sure you reviewed your answers. Now, we can see how that looks from the student's end. We have the first directions, we have all our questions. Now we have to click next to go on to the next section. Final reminder, before you submit, be sure you reviewed your answers, and then students can click submit. If you wanted to have this be a separate section of an assessment, you could do that by adding additional questions beneath those directions that you just created. Now there are a few last items we need to review before students take the assessment. In the top right corner, you can change the color by clicking the color palette and change the color to any color that you feel fits your assessment. If you'd like, you can also upload an image. They have a gallery of different images you could add. Let's select this one, very colorful, loading your new theme. But I prefer to stick to just plain old colors. We'll keep it purple by clicking the center eye. We already know that brings us to our assessment preview. And now on the right-hand side, by clicking the gear, it will take us to the settings of the form. First, you definitely always want to collect email addresses from your students. This will allow you to send them results, and it will be very clear as to which students took the assessment. Beneath that, there is the option for response receipts. What that gives is it automatically sends a copy of answers to students after they take the assessment. However, since we're going to set up an automatic grader, we don't need this option checked. Now, down at the bottom, you can have two options whether you want respondents to be able to edit after they submit or see a summary chart and text responses. Both of these really aren't necessary for what we're using the assessment for. Now, up at the top, if we click Presentation, we'll see three options provided to us. Whether we want to provide students with a progress bar, shuffle the question order of the assessment, and show a link to submit another response after students click submit. Those are up to your personal preference and how you're using the assessment. Down at the bottom, you can include a unique confirmation message that students will receive after they submit their assessment. For example, I will include one that says, Muchísimas gracias. Estudia 30 minutos por Quizlet esta noche. Make sure you study 30 minutes tonight on Quizlet. And then finally in the top right, under quizzes, you have the option to set this up as a quiz. This option is not necessary for us because a separate plugin will help us grade our quiz and automatically submit results to students. Then in the bottom right, we click Save. Now, we are finally ready to send our assessments to the students. To do this, in the upper right-hand corner, we need to click the Send link, and then we have 3 options. We can send the assessment to students via email. This will take a long time to type out all the email addresses right here. The best way to do it is right here in the middle. If you click the link button, there's this link, and you can copy that link and you can send it to your students either via email, or I like to simply post it on my classroom website and direct students to that link. Also, on the right-hand side, you can embed this form using HTML. I don't know your familiarity with HTML and coding, but you can embed the form if you'd like on your website as well. And you can also share the assessment via Google+, Facebook, or Twitter. So let's take a tour of our final product and see how students will take the assessment. Up in the URL address bar, I will paste the link that I just copied, and it will take me to a live form of the assessment that we just created. My email address, I will include my email address, senormustbt@gmail.com. If you are set up on a school Google account, this will automatically pull the student's email address and you won't have to worry about students inputting their email address. Now let's answer the questions. Me gusta comer el sándwich de jamón y queso. Oh, what is that? That is una manzana. The eggs, our short answer, los huevos. And then cuáles son rojas? We never change this question at the end, so I'll just add a random time, 5 a.m. Click next, make sure you review your answers. I'm not a robot. And then we'll finally click submit. Now what I'm going to do is quickly take the assessment 3 times to simulate multiple students taking the assessment. Now, after students complete the form, we can open our Google Form assessment in our Drive. So let's go back to our Drive, open our Google Form assessment. Now, at the top, we can go to our Responses tab. As we can see, we have 4 brand new responses. We have 2 different modes to look in. We can look in the summary mode or individual student mode. Let's take a look at the summary mode. Notice all the emails are the same because I am the same respondent. And we can take a look how Google analyzes our data. 1 person put ensalada, 1 person put pizza, and 2 people put sandwich. Clearly our correct answer. Ooh, our multiple choice. It breaks it up nice and evenly. 1 for each answer. The eggs, we had 4 different answers. Los huevos, una pizza, el yogur, el huevo. And then our times were all different throughout the day. However, I like to view the data in a spreadsheet. To do this, you click the green spreadsheet button in the top right, and then create a new spreadsheet. It will automatically include the name of your assessment and then put responses at the end. So click Create, linking to Spreadsheet, and then it will pull up your data in a spreadsheet. Also, just for reference, we can close out of that spreadsheet and the actual assessment. It creates that spreadsheet right below the actual assessment in whatever folder you have the assessment saved in. So we can go to the data directly in that spreadsheet. Now, with our responses in a spreadsheet, it starts us on our journey of data analysis and student growth. I hope this video provided a basic introduction as to how we can use Google Forms to formatively assess our students. In the videos linked below, I will continue the process and provide further directions on how to set up an automatic grader to immediately grade student assessments and send them results, and how to use the data from the assessments to differentiate your instruction and drive student growth.